Right. What type of meditation?
Well, I was doing the Anapanasati
Okay.
for years, and then recently, my teacher, I guess you could say, is nearby in a Burmese temple. I think you may have heard of it,
Yes.
Venerable Chaya, and he's recently put me on the abdominal breathing and noting.
Okay.
So I'm trying that. And I do it for probably at least an hour a day.
Right.
And try to go more. But I have pain that's in my hip that comes at about 40-45 minutes, and it grows more intense.
Right.
And Venerable Chaya says that it is maybe old karma.
Yes.
And it stops me from meditating for very long periods of time.
Okay. It could actually be old karmic effects that we get when we start meditating. Some experience these things just when they start meditating, and they can't really concentrate or focus. And then we have to do certain remedies so that dies down, and then we can actually start focusing on what we actually need to be focusing. So certain techniques might work once you have this type of pain or this type of karmic effects. Has the teacher told anything about how to overcome some of the...
Well, he says just be patient with the pain.
Yes.
And I can do that for a considerable period. I mean, it depends on what you consider long, but after some time, I can bear it up to maybe an hour and 15 minutes.
Right.
And then he says do it bear the pain for 5-10 minutes and then move your posture.
Yes, you can actually try that method also. And then there's do you find it comfortable seated like this, and have you tried any meditation by seated?
Just sitting?
Yeah, like that? Is it difficult?
I have, but he said, I suggested that to him some years ago, I guess, and he said it's the best thing if you can sit on the floor.
Yes, because of the lotus position. It aligns your body in a perfect balance, that's why.
Yeah.
But if you need to expand from there, and if you have continuous pain, maybe you can try after 45 minutes or whenever you get the pain, bear the pain for a little while, see whether you can wait. But if it's very difficult, then you move to another position where you can sit and meditate also.
Okay.
That is one way. And the other way is that just before you start the meditation, imagine this flow of light which comes through your body, right through the crown chakra, and spreading downwards to your shoulders and arms and body, and then the legs, and it uncovers the legs as well, and then travel backwards up and move from your crown chakra. And just imagine this golden light which flows around and protects from certain karmic effects as well.
Okay. I'll
So
try
that. Yeah.
The whole point for me if my goal is just to do an hour, then the pain isn't a big problem. I mean, I can bear it. And another thing that I do, Venerable Teranin Mawansa, is that I concentrate on the pain. and I've read so many times that people say concentrating on the pain and then it goes away. Well, not in my case.
Yeah.
It does not go away.
Yeah.
It almost never goes
away.
Yeah, and it always comes in the same place.
Right.
I do see the value of concentrating on the pain to not be driven about by the pain, and to try to see if there's more subtle things moving in there.
Yes.
That in the area of the pain, but it's difficult. You don't usually see nothing.
Yeah, because all you can feel is the pain and the pain and the pain.
Yeah.
And you're concentrating on the pain rather than on beyond the pain sometimes.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So, just would like to talk to you a little bit about maybe the before part where you can actually meditate. Okay, because I think that is also one step where we come from one step to another step and slowly grow in this meditations. Bob, have you noticed that why would we want to meditate in the first place? Do you have any answers to that? Have you just thought about it?
Well, I mean, why did we come to Buddhism in the first place? It's to end our suffering, That's why, I'm not sure that's correct, but that's why, to gain insight into how life happens,
right.
So, so we can avoid our ignorant actions and things like that. I don't.
Yeah, that's because sometimes to maybe give some points for you to proceed further on. That is actually the basic reason we try to figure out this beautiful philosophy that that Lord Buddha has been carrying right through. It's when we actually realize that materialistic world will offer a lot, but it all most often lasts only for certain amount of time, and then it just disappears. And we need an answer. How are we going to be satisfied, or how are we going to be at peace or be happy right throughout in a continuous way? And that is what Buddhism is all about, to teach us what life really is, and that we are in this changing position, this evolving position right throughout, even if we don't really realize it at the beginning of it. But by studying little things regarding Buddhism, it enhances us to think what our life really is about, and this rat race that we are actually going from one thing to the other, searching for happiness. Everybody searches for happiness.
Yeah.
A person who is in the streets searches for happiness. Person who is doing a top-notch job in Wall Street maybe, looking for happiness. Yeah. And who is very calm and peaceful farmer somewhere in the Wild West or whatever. He is also looking for happiness. And we are all searching for something, but we are going in two different directions. The the first direction that we almost everybody takes is, we think that these worldly things will bring us happiness, and it does for some amount of time. And then it starts to change, evolve. And this change is the one we cannot take, because we fear change. Because with change, we have to adapt so many different things. And when this change takes place, most of our happiness goes down with it. And we need to build it up all over again. So we are in this huge process without even noticing what we are actually in for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the meditational methods will help to actually see right through why we actually do this meditation, Bob, is actually the deepest meaning of meditation is like, you know, if you have a pool or a river and if it's very muddy, you can't actually see right through. You can't see whether there are stones or whether they are rubbish or what is actually in there. We can't see if the water is muddy. So what we're trying to do is here, get the water cleared and the mud goes down, and if it goes down and the water is clear, we can see right through this. It's the transparency that meditation does. But this river is called mind. Okay, it's because the mind is so cluttered by so many different things that, and we give this mind different commands all the time. It's like, do this at this time and do that at that time, and then we keep changing our decisions and changing our directions so much that we move all over the place all the time. So if we practice methods which helps us to be aware, follow the awareness, and with the awareness comes the concentration. Many people think that it's the concentration which brings the awareness, but it's actually the other way around. When you're actually aware of certain things, the concentration level increases. The moment you start to meditate, and if we say, concentrate, I need to concentrate and concentrate, you will notice that your thoughts are shifting all over the place. The moment you're just aligned with this breathing and the technique of breathing, the concentration just automatically gets you focused. So that would be actually the first steps of meditation, to concentrate on the breathing. And when we are aware of this breathing, maybe we can look a little bit further from the breathing. And that would be something like, if we have a thought, see that the thought arises and the thought lasts for a time period and then it slowly shuts down. Have you tried that technique?
Not as a technique, but I've tried at times to notice those things, that things come up, they persist for a while and then they disappear.
Yes.
You know? But not as a real technique in meditation.
Right, because the first steps of meditation with the breathing happens as we call it samatha meditations. And if we need to observe more or get more information about how to end this suffering, then we need to look a little bit more from this. And that's where the vipassana meditation comes. First we start with the samatha meditations, just as you have been doing with the anapanasati. And this same meditation method, we can proceed further with this. And that is called vipassana. In the same anapanasati, there's two sides of it. So if I just maybe talk a little bit on the vipassana, it's about how you see this thought coming in, building of the thought, and where it actually leads you. If you just let your mind free for a time period, you will actually notice that this thought is taking you to a different place. Okay? And this different place would be it will always be to a place where it's connected to some kind of desire. Some kind of desire.
Yeah.
So that way, if you analyze the thought, the process of thought, and if you just let loose, let the guard down for a bit, and just let this thought just move, it will always take you to a place where you're having some kind of desire, some kind of attachment, some kind of envy, some kind of agitation. It will tell you a story.
Yeah.
This single thought will tell you a huge, big story. And this big story is where we have the most desires. And if we can actually take that bit of information, that where this thought is leading us to, maybe we will be able to see how we get attached to the desire part, attachment part, and whether the valuation that we actually create in our mind towards this. Because if we are able to analyze the valuation that we give to certain things and see why we value this so much, why we want this so much, why we desire this so much, is because of a certain valuation that we have had in our mind towards that. Now, is that going to last exactly the way I want? Okay.
We know the answer to that, but
if we go on that line, we will be able to see maybe a little bit more of this.
So you're saying try to, for a time, let your mind go free, then catch yourself down the line, realizing it went here to this desire.
Yes.
And at the same time that you must be thinking this is permanent, condition that I'm hoping for.
Yes.
Or,
It's a permanent, because the desire attached with the valuation will always lead to this permanency that we are looking for. It will always lead to, because we give the valuation and we value so many things. Because of that valuation and trying to be in that permanent mood or the feeling or the attachment which is created by this permanency, will most definitely lead us to something completely different as well. Because the moment whatever we think is going to last, it starts changing. Then we hit the problem. Then we get a little bit agitated with this. We don't want the change anymore. We want it to be as we want it to be.
Permanent.
Exactly. So there you realize how much of permanency that I have been actually looking for in these little desires that I've been having, where the mind tracks all the time, mind searches for all the time. And realizing that desire that I've had does not last exactly the way I want, because it is not permanent, we are able to let go of that attachment. So this is a technique where actually meditation method where it will let your mind free and go to places where you're most attached to. And then it breaks the attachment systematically, actually. And by doing this, by practicing this method, we're actually letting go of the attachments, because we're realizing how impermanent that really was in actual fact.
Yeah.
And when we make decisions in real life, when we come out of the meditations and make decisions in real life, that wisdom dawns in us when we make the decisions. And that way we eliminate suffering.
attachment is the problem.
Attachment is the problem.
Yeah.
Why is attachment problem the problem? Actually, it's the problem that we have.
Because things are changing without our control.
Exactly. And our mind is so focused and trained and disciplined to expect this control to happen all the time as we desire it. So the more we have been trained from basically childhood on this method, and the basic instinct is to control, so that we will get the best out of what we really desire. And that is because we put this high valuation on a lot of things, thinking that this will actually last exactly the way I want. And if it doesn't, we just change the method. We don't see the problem in the attachment, the valuation in the attachment, and we don't take off the attachment or devalue the attachment, but we keep this high price and we look for another method that we can reach up here. If this method A doesn't work, then we tell, okay, I need to be here, do this and get this in life, and we just change our plan and we are going for the same attachment. That's what we've been doing in the entire sansaric life. That's how we are moving from one life to the other and one love to the other, whether we believe it or not. Even if we take that whole story out of moving from one life to the other, you can just experience what we do in this same life.
So if you can do that, you can logically conclude that after this life you will continue with something else. I mean, it makes sense, you know. It never stops in this life. Why is it going to stop when you die?
In another one,
you know?
Yeah. Because we had to start this whole thing. We start this entire whole thing again in another life. Because we cannot remember the past life. That is the problem we have.
Yes. Yeah.
Isn't it? If we can think of the way we suffered with diseases and with attachments and loss of loved ones, if we can just remember that.
Well, for one lifetime, bad it is, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if we suffer from a heart attack, whatever cardiac arrest or something like that, as soon as that condition is taken care of, then we want something else. Yeah. Even in this life, just this life, if we take, we don't have to go into so many past lives or so many future lives. We just take this in just one life, analyze the situations that we have been going through. It's the exact same process, because the moment a desire comes, it's a valuation that hooks us to this attachment. It just hooks us without us knowing about it.
Yeah. It's that sneaky.
Yeah. So, are you suggesting that we try this method to let our mind go where to show ourselves? You know, that this, yes, you were right. This is what happens. You attach. You get to some desire that you're valuing highly, and you ask yourself right there, why am I valuing this so much? For an example, I'll just take just one example. A mother has a lot of attachment towards a kid. Yeah, it's a natural thing. Natural. Number one. So the kid actually goes through some kind of, he meets with an accident. He's just about 15 years old and the kid meets with an accident. The moment this call comes, mother gets so worried and is devastated of what might happen to the child. And yes, that is the first part that we see of a child being hit by a car or something. But once the treatment gets going and once the son is actually okay, still this trauma comes all over again.
What could happen?
What could happen
Yeah.
if this,
In the future.
in the future, if this same thing happened, or if it was a split second different than what actually happened. This goes through over and over and over. And why we relive this moment is because of the attachment to the child. But the problem is, that is one level that we see, but there's a deeper level than this that we actually suffer. It's because if something happens to the child, can I bear it? It's a different way of looking at it. Because the attachment that I have towards a child gives me this type of valuation. And that also will break if something happens to my child. So actually, in another way, we always want to keep ourselves happy in the same time that we want happiness for the child as well. Because if he goes through a danger, I go through a danger as well. And this example, another example, I really want my child to go on the field of medicine, because I was a doctor as well, and he has the capacity to do it. He really has the brains to do it. I see that. He's also interested in medicine, but he's more interested in art. I'm not valuing art too much. For me, it's not that. Why do I persist sometimes to take that path? Maybe you should take that. Maybe medicine is really good. Because I'm trying to satisfy myself in some form or the other. Yeah. There is, with the attachment, we always think I'm trying to do the best thing for my kid. But there is a part where my mind takes the pride of my son is this, or my daughter is this, or my wife is this, or my husband is this.
A big part of it.
Yeah, a big part of it.
For parents.
Yes. And if we can see the attachment and the love and whatever we wish for the other person is good, that's true. But within that framework, there is a major part of keeping my happiness intact as well.
That's true.
Yeah? So that's why I'm actually really attached to my kid and not the entire neighborhood of kids. How does that differ? It's my wife or my partner that I really get attached to. And yes, there are other people with other couples and whatever, but my attachment to them is limited. And this person's attachment is much more, because I value this person's company, because this person gives me this type of satisfaction. Yeah. So this whole process, actually of identifying the deeper section of the mind, the deeper section where we think of one thing, we think we are actually attached to one thing, but that's only one level of attachment. There is a deeper attachment which lies beneath this surface, where we should actually tap. Because that is the real issue, where we go from one life to the other, and we build this entire process of samsara. Just to repeat what I was talking to Bob about.
Okay.
And so we're talking about meditation first, and then we moved on to how to really see through this mind the process of mind.
Oh, okay.
Because most of the time we think that we know our mind. But do we actually know our mind? Because it's the most hardest thing to track, isn't it? I'm here talking to you, and it seems to be that I'm doing a Dhamma discussion. But in the back of my mind, in another section of my mind, I can be thinking of Sri Lanka. And maybe a puja that I need to do there, or a date plan that I need to make at the same time that I'm talking to you. It appears that I'm actually with you and in this conversation and dedicated to this conversation, but in another part of my mind, I'm actually, 1,000 miles in Sri Lanka. So this mind is so deceiving actually. We're actually talking about this attachment and how this attachment builds and how the mind actually shows us one thing and it's actually doing something completely different. And we took the example of a kid. We always think that as parents, we love our kids so much. We're bonded with our kids and attached to our kids. But there's a different kind of attachment, and we think that we are doing all of these things because of the love for our children. But is it only for the love of our children? What about ourselves? We took the example of this kid meeting with an accident. The moment we hear that, his mind shatters into pieces. What could happen? What could happen? And even if the child is completely fine after that, this trauma keeps appearing in our mind. What if it has been, 5 minutes later? What would happen to him? Now, why is that? Is it only the welfare of the child? Or is it also an attachment to my happiness? Because my happiness shatters if something happens to the child. You see? It's two sides of the coin. The first, it appears to be one thing, but it's always underneath there is another level of happiness or attachment that we are trying to maintain because I need my peace of mind. Because my peace of mind is going to be shattered if something happens to this person that I so value. So, looking at desire and attachment, we need to find the ways of our thinking, the pattern of thinking, the level of thinking. How the mind actually diverts this attention to something completely different. It focuses and shows us something completely different, and actually its highest attachment is to something completely in the opposite direction. So to find this, how this mind works, we need the meditation. We need to try to calm not just our body and ourselves, but we need to calm down the mind a little bit to be able to understand this gigantic process. Yes, you can share your thoughts.
No, very true. I mean, but not easy to catch yourself, seeing that. I mean, my happiness is dependent on the other's happiness, and that's attachment, to think that if something happens to this other person bad, then I'll be devastated.
Devastated by.
That's it's almost universal.
Yes.
That very few people are not attached to anything in this life, or anything.
Because that attachment is the main reason of our suffering. Because I'm always trying to fulfill my happiness, conditioning based on the outside world or anything which is attached to the world. It might be a person, it might be a thing, it might be a designation, it might be a status of life. It can be anything, but it's always outside. So the moment I try to actually control this outside thing in order for it to function in a better way so that I have my peace, it always has an imbalance, because there's only a limit that I can actually have the control. And the moment this control loses, it doesn't go according to the exact way that I'm thinking, my mind gets affected. So the more we look outside to solve this problem, it actually almost does not get solved at all, because the problem was always inside and the answer was always from inside. But we think that the problem is outside and we search for the answers outside. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the problem was lying within me, and I'm trying to look for the answers outside of me. Just doesn't match. We can think this way for a time period, but we are deceived by the mind again, yet again. We seem to be having control. Things seem to be going okay for some time, and then it starts changing, and we cannot accept the impermanency. That's why we can't accept the impermanency. If there was a method to accept this impermanency, wouldn't we be at peace? Yeah. We would be at peace. So the meditation methods is always trying to show us the real picture in life, the real attachments in life, the reality. It brings out the reality in life. But for that we need to have the discipline to be able to go deep and search for it in our mind. To do that, we cannot make the restrictions. We cannot put the restrictions to our mind. Because the moment we restrict the mind, it will only show us exactly what we need to see. The moment we let loose the restrictions, this will start going in all the directions that it wants to go. And there we can identify what the real desire was, where it's really headed. Because that's where the danger is coming. That's where the suffering is coming.
Okay. Yeah, I also had a few more questions. Well, I wrote down, Venerable Terani Mahatsa, I wrote down that to ask about the jhanas, these jhana states, dhyana, and whether, that you read so many things about them. They're not necessary, you see many things about them. I don't, how do you think on this? Tell me something about
dhyana. Dhyana is actually, it's a Pali word. The Pali word, the essence of this is dhyana. What it means is you burn out. You burn out certain things. So what do we actually burn out? Burn out and get rid of. That's the real meaning of dhyana. So what do we need to burn out and be clear with? It's the klesha that we have, the defilements that we have, the desires that we have, the agitations that we have, the ignorance actually that we have. So that is the part we need to burn out and get rid of. And this dhyana meditation is taking you, it's actually based on something like this. We are always looking for happiness and contentment in the outside world. But it, of course, as we spoke before, it always has a mess outside. So it trains us to look inside, where we come to a state in our mind and we build the states in our mind so that we experience this calmness and this happiness and this tranquility within the mind. And the first dhyana would give you a level of, it has a level of concentration, but it also has a level of calmness and very deep, deep-seated tranquility within it. And where you actually feel this happiness within you. And then when we move to the second level, the happiness part of it just goes down, the calmness part of it increases. When we go to the third dhyana, the happiness almost is lost, kind of, but we are completely tranquil over here. And then with the fourth dhyana, the tranquility and calmness is it's just automatic, it just follows through. And then you see, sometimes some people start seeing images of light. You see your entire body. You don't actually see the body, but you just see it's like a complete light beam kind of thing. You see this light because the klesha or the defilements is being taken care of little by little. It's just been taken away. So then you arrive at this energy body or the aura body. You start seeing your aura body, which is like an energy beam. And if you practice and practice and practice this, it actually, as I told you before, it calms the mind so much that you're able to see through the mind. Transparency starts happening. And then when this transparency starts happening, when you're getting attached to desire, then it tells you this is what you're headed for. This is what you're giving the valuation. This is what you're trying to actually do. You're saying this to this person, but in the back of your mind, you're actually thinking this. Now, why are you doing that? It makes you so transparent. In the normal world, when we do things, that samadhi or sati appears here. So dhyana meditation is one way to cleanse the mind so that you see through this. The problem is it's so difficult to see through this. So it's cleansing and cleansing and cleansing and making the path more visible, the mind more visible.
My wife seems to think that those dhyana stages are only for the very advanced meditator. She may be right for all I know, but it seems to me that you don't have to be meditating that long to at least get into the first one.
No, it is not. It is actually the other way around. Dhyana meditation is the basic one.
Yeah.
And then we train on vipassana. Because dhyana meditation falls into samadhi. That's the first step. That's like the foundation. And then on the foundation, it's no point laying the foundation without building the house. And the roof has to go on top.
Yeah.
That is vipassana. Okay? So maybe you can start with dhyana meditation, but when you do the anapanasati and you arrive at this complete peaceful state, that is dhyana. Because this is interlinked. Dhyana is always interlinked with something. It is a state of mind. But what happens in the dhyana meditation is many seem to like this dhyana so much that they only focus themselves. When they meditate, they will have peace. But Lord Buddha wasn't just trying to tell us when you're meditating, you will have peace, and when you're doing the other things, it will be havoc. Basically, he wasn't trying to show us that path. He was trying to show us you meditate and get into these stages and cleanse yourself from this, and the detachment, you realize the impermanency, accept the impermanency, then you detach from so many other wants and needs and whatever you want to call it. And that will lessen your suffering, and one day it will take off the suffering completely. That's what he was actually trying to show us in his philosophical thinking. So dhyana meditation could be done with anapanasati, and actually you will be experiencing maybe the first dhyana, the second dhyana, third or even the fourth dhyana through the experience of the anapanasati. When you get deeply into it, it will let you calm down, concentrate completely, and make you so relaxed that you wouldn't even notice whether you're breathing or not anymore.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that?
That's a classic symptom, or not symptom,
but it's a road sign.
Yeah, road sign.
Yeah.
And that the breathing actually does stop.
Yes.
And then you're breathing through maybe your skin
cells.
You know.
You're not breathing air from your nose anymore, but you're breathing in a complete different way, which keeps you alive.
Yeah.
But you're in samadhi completely, that you're detached even from the breathing or want to be in breathing. You're so focused and you're so tranquil with this calmness that you let go of the breathing part of it, and you're completely in this. That is actually the fourth dhyana.
Yeah. Now, what about the attachment in dhyana?
Yes, people, actually meditators do get very much attached to this because it's so calming and so relaxing. But if you attach yourself even to dhyana, you will get stuck there. Yeah. Because if you die, what's going to happen is you're going to be on that kind of plane, that kind of level. Because the mind is these are all the experiences that we have in this first dhyana, second dhyana, third dhyana, fourth dhyana. It's all also connected to different worlds. Thala, we call this thala. It's different planets or different worlds where you experience this calmness. So if you die there meditating, or your mind, because what happens is in a daily life you do something, and if you're practicing meditation so much, the moment your life is passing away, your mind will actually shift to that dhyana, because that's what you've been practicing so much. So it attaches you to this. Same, likewise, if you've been needing a person, maybe your wife or maybe your partner, and you're always constantly thinking about this person, you get attached to this person, and then this becoming happens. In another life, you're actually searching for love and caring and whatever. So attaching yourself to dhyana also could be a problem, because there you have a complete different world which exists of dhyana. The first dhyana, second dhyana, third dhyana, fourth dhyana, Brahma. We call that Brahmatala. So if we develop an attachment to the dhyana also, it's a problem. So if we leave behind the experience of the first dhyana, we experience this. Yes, this is very calming, this is very relaxing, but this is not where I really want to be. When you condition your mind to that, you know the impermanency of this state of mind, because it is still a state of mind.
Yeah.
And then you let go of that, detach that.
So you have to be, somewhere in the back of your mind has to be the awareness that I shouldn't get attached to this state.
Experience it, know it, but don't be attached to it, because easily your mind can get attached to it. Mind is always searching for something to get attached to. If it's not the worldly things, it's not the feelings, it's a feeling of dhyana maybe. That's what. that calmness. So we need to detach from that as well. But the moment you detach from the first dhyana, you automatically go to the second dhyana, which is even more at peace. And if you detach from that, you go to the third one, which is even more of peace, a calmness. And fourth dhyana, the point in reaching the fourth dhyana is it will be a very good foundation for vipassana meditation. Because being in that dhyana, you will see that all the other distractions and everything is very much less. Because it's so less, you can focus and concentrate on exactly where the mind is taking you. So after that fourth level, you should actually train yourself in vipassana, which is vipassana meditation that I was talking to you about before. Letting your mind free and seeing where the thought is taking you. This is a method where we combine the samatha and vipassana or vipassana. It's interconnected.
I have a basic question. Is samatha? I mentioned I'm concentrating and noting the breath. Is that samatha meditation?
Yes, that's the beginning of samatha.
Even though it's not here, it's samatha.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm not really doing vipassana meditation until I can go through the levels of dhyana.
Okay.
Is that right? No, I'm asking.
You can experience this even more, but maybe you're in a state where you actually have been through this dhyana. The dhyana is always the road signs. You're traveling and you're actually passing. When you're doing the anapanasati, you're actually passing through the dhyana.
And sometimes you don't realize
You
it.
don't realize that.
Yeah.
You don't realize it. You have to know the basic signs. The first dhyana is happiness and calmness. The second dhyana would be happiness would be decreased, and the calmness would increase. The third dhyana would be calmness, very much to do with calmness.
Now, when the books talk about rapture, the same thing,
Yes.
happiness, yeah.
Yes.
And then to me, how I think now is that the calmness is happiness. You
Yes.
know, that's how I see it, because the world is so nuts.
Yes.
You know that if you actually do experience calmness, that's happiness. And what
Yes.
they call happiness in the world, usually like a party or
Yeah.
a concert
Yeah.
or something, that's suffering, really.
Yes.
You know, it's too much excitement, you know, and when you do experience some of that, you know, the peace,
Yes.
that's your happiness.
That's
really.
real happiness.
Yeah.
Where the real calmness is the real happiness. And once you get to this stage where you're actually not sure whether you're actually breathing or not, but that also just falls away, that is the fourth dhyana. That is the symptom or the sign of the fourth dhyana.
Yeah.
Because try to, once you reach up to, if you can call it reach up, but I'm just using the word reach up, once you're established in that state, then after some time you can practice the vipassana techniques, because that's where you really break the defilements. That's where you really see everything as it should be seen. And that is the part where you actually see the attachment to different things, different people, different places, different feelings, different positions. Actually, you see the entire picture there. First, you actually in this jigsaw puzzle, we are only seeing the little pieces. When we go into vipassana methods, you start seeing the entire picture. Yes, you also may be having such questions.
Oh, I had this is a simple question, but it's kind of a misunderstanding or, something I'm unclear about. When you read the books, you see the term once in a while, bear attention. What does that really mean?
Bear attention.
Yeah.
What it might be, because I haven't read the entire paragraph, it's very difficult to interpret what it was actually trying to say, but it could be something like be in this attention, pay attention, or be in this attention, or be
one with this attention, or something.
Attention meaning the awareness.
Yeah.
Meaning the awareness, be in the awareness, continuous awareness, or focus, or the sati, really. That's what it might mean.
I mean, you may not see these in Sinhala books, or it's translated a little bit different way or something, but in English books you see that term bear attention, B-A-R-E.
Bear attention.
Yeah.
Bear attention should mean the focus and the, when you actually go through the meditation process so that your mind doesn't shift to different places at first. This is a samatha. But then in the vipassana, we let the mind free. You see, we are doing the complete opposite of samatha in vipassana. We first, to get this groundwork going, we calm down all the thoughts and we make the water clear. And once we make the water clear, we just let the mind run to see where it's actually going. So it's the complete opposite that we're actually practicing. In samatha, we say one thing, and we actually, in vipassana, we do the exact opposite of that. Because that way you track where this is headed, where the most attachment valuation is given. Because why do we get attached? Because we have created a valuation on that. So we need to identify why we actually created the valuation in the first place to begin with. If we can identify that, and if we devalue that, the attachment breaks, and then the defilement breaks. The klesha breaks. And then there's less suffering of that nature. And we keep doing this. And then there's less suffering of the other nature. Then there's less suffering of the other nature. Slowly, step by step, we move forward. And into Margapala as well. Like Sakadagami, Sakaradagami, Anagami, Ariha. Any thoughts?
He just started listening to the hum. His brother-in-law was studied with Mr. Abhay Swami Mahasin University.
Okay. That's
Engineering faculty.
Engineering. That's very good news.
He is following your banner and Abhay Swami Mahasin's Dharmadeshna now. She's his sister-in-law. And she is working with us
I see.
in the school.
I see.
She's a Catholic girl too.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's true. Meditation doesn't matter.
Yeah, meditation does not have a religion. It's not a religion based. This even Buddhism is a complete science.
Science.
Once you get into this, only you will know that it's a method. It's a method.
That's true.
If you learn the method, you can apply this, because it's a universal truth. It's like, a triangle will always have three corners.
Yeah.
That does not change whether you're American or whether you're Sinhalese or whether you're Buddhist or whether you're Hindu or Catholic or whatever. It's just a basic principle.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to understand this basic principle because it eliminates the suffering. That's why we are doing this. So you can be a good Catholic and still be practicing
Best
best Catholic. Still be practicing.
I used to listen to your conversation. She used to listen, so
Okay.
I used to listen to that too.
Okay. I will tell you one, maybe it will be very interesting to listen to Sansana Sihine. Well, fortunately, unfortunately, but it's only in Sinhalese at the moment. I might do something in English, but it's in Sinhalese. You can listen to it. You will notice the differences and maybe certain techniques.
I think it's very difficult to start the meditation, no?
No, when you start
When you
listening to
start-
Dharma Deshana,
Yeah.
you will automatically fall into that path.
Start with the Maitri Bhavana. Anapanasati and the Maitri Bhavana.
Breathing?
Yeah, breathing and the Maitri Bhavana, both
I think
together.
it's only maximum we can do like 2-3 minutes, that's the
No,
one.
no,
No,
you
Please
will
go
improve.
away.
That's,
Different,
watch that the mind travels.
Mm.
Watch.
Okay.
Don't try to stop it.
I think the
What you're trying to do is
breathing I
stop.
want to stop.
No,
Huh?
no, you shouldn't do that. When your mind is, when your thoughts are shifting here and there, and
Yeah.
there, know that the thoughts are shifting. That's the first step. Know that you're thinking about the office. Know that you're thinking about the doctor or the next email you need to write or the next phone call that you need to make. Know that. That's the number one step. That is where you build the attention or the sati. Sati means knowing exactly what you're doing at this time.
She mentioned even in the traffic lights.
Yeah.
When we started, you can meditate.
Meditate.
I'm not
Meditation is, we think that meditation only we need to be seated in this position and do it. No,
No.
that is
Yeah.
the start of it.
I used to do that.
After that, you can't get this into a different level that you're actually meditating while you're doing so many other things. That's the next step after what I was talking to Bob about. You take this vipassana and take it outside your meditation hall or room or cushion. Because that's what we really want to achieve. We can't be seated 24 hours in one way and be
I know.
they're focusing on this. We need to take that practice out. But to take that practice out first, we need this. See?
Only Nirodha Samapatti you can stay like 7 days. Not
Yeah.
Nivasa.
So that's also 7 days. Even if you reach the highest of the dhyana, after the dhyana you reach the samapatta, 4 dhyanas, 4 samapattas. That's all status of mind where you experience extreme calmness. And the 9th one is Nirodha Samapatti, where that is Nirvana, that's completely Nirvana.
It's nirvana.
Nirvana, yeah, Nirvana. You experience that. When you're alive, you experience that.
Mm.
But even in that, even if you're the best meditating person, you can only be in this state without water, without movement for 7 days. That's the maximum.
Oh.
So what happens after the 7 days? Back to square one. You see?
You come down, you don't know where you were.
Yeah, Kama Bhumi. You come back to the world.
Word.
So why we train this is to tell the mind that there's much better things than the actual happiness you were trying to look from through the world. It's just to tell your mind and get the mind to be trained, thinking on this pattern. And when we go through this, we experience that the mind, creation of the mind is also ignorance. And that's at a very high state. But first, let's not focus on that. Let's just do
Start,
this.
yeah.
So when these thoughts come, know that the thoughts are coming. And then you leave it behind. I thought about writing this email. Yes, this is a thought. Don't go to write the email in your mind.
Yeah. the
Just leave it. Just leave it as it is. It will come, arise, stay for some time, and watch the movement. That's all that you need to do. And pay attention to the karmasthana. Focus on the karmasthana. This way, when you do this, you're just focusing. It's training your mind to just focus on one thing first to begin with. And this training will lead you to so many things.
Sanat Buddha is married to her cousin.
Okay. So it's good. You have so many stress in the world today. Everything is stressed.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true.
There's so much of stress. Why? Why do we have so much of stress in our lives?
Attachment and too much technology.
And also we expect so many things that cannot be accepted. That's the main problem. So this will be a method to calm down and think on what we can accept and that what we can't expect. The impermanency of things. Slowly, little by little. Any other thoughts that I can help with?
Do you have any more questions?
Do you have any questions?
Not really.
Yeah. Okay, well, tomorrow when I sit down to meditate, try to, as I focus on the rising and falling of the abdomen, that's simple anapanasati, right? And is just samadhi, right?
Yes.
It's just basic concentration.
Yes.
When the mind may go after I cannot do that any for a time, the mind travels without me knowing it somewhere. And you're saying, do that consciously now, or to let it go to where it wants to go.
Yes.
Realizing I will find a desire with the evaluation that I've put on it.
Yes.
At that time, after I realize that, I come back to the stomach.
Yeah, you can come back to the anapanasati as well. The valuation and realize why you put this valuation in the first place.
Okay.
Then it will give you some insight.
Okay.
I will not guide you from there onwards because this is something you need to experience. Once you start experiencing this, you will things will start to take its own pattern. And this is where you have the insights. Now, insights are something that a trainer can't tell you because then you will be expecting that.
Yeah.
An insight has to be insight. You need to know this. That is wisdom. That is where the wisdom starts to grow. Knowledge, this is knowledge. I'm transferring knowledge. But the wisdom, you need to gain the wisdom. Once you reach up to those levels, then the insights will fall right through. Then you will know, this, I have been doing this for this reason. Even though I've been thinking this, you will have that. Then you come back to the anapanasati and end your meditation. This is called Samatha Purvangama Vipassana.
Samatha
Purvangama
Vipassana.
Vipassana. That means samatha, you do basic, you start with the samatha and then you move on to vipassana. Purvangama means you move on. Purva Angama. First this and then you move on to vipassana or vidarshana. Samatha, Purvangama, vipassana.
Now, does that mean with each meditation session you go from
samatha
to vipassana?
Yeah, you can do that.
You can.
You can, or you can only do the samatha some of the times. And later on, the next step would be you just start with anapanasati and your mind will shift very fast to that, to the vipassana.
So really, this samatha and this vipassana are not two things, they're one thing.
It's one thing, divided into parts so that it's for better understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that we teach the method in the right way. Otherwise, if we talk about vipassana, for a person who's just starting meditation or had not experienced what we're talking about, that it might be very difficult. But I have noticed some incidents that a person cannot do the samatha because the person's mind automatically shifts to vipassana and he can concentrate and analyze certain things. That just happens perfectly. And when you go back and think what has happened is maybe in a past lifetime they have been practicing this method a lot. And when you start meditating, what happens is you start from where you left behind. It happens in Arya Bhavana. So you actually start from where you have left or you have ended. And then it disconnects. It has a very strange way of connecting.
What is it?
Teruna.